Now, I'm gonna be talking to myself for a while. I oh, geez. Um, I suppose I should have announced this a little better than this. We'll see what happens. What I'm doing is that I'm trying out seeing how my other computer works. Something had happened to my, the camera on this, and now it's working fine, it seems. So I thought, well, let's have a midweek chat. Hey, Patel, how you doing? Just picked up a Patek Philippe 5320G perpetual calendar. Wow, that sounds like a great one. It was your grail. Always great to get your grail. Hey, Big Sal. Washington football fan. My God, Washington, you have something to cheer for this year so far. My, two of my teams are 0 and 2. It's the Chargers, which is just sort of like a bad habit, and the Patriots. Well, I'd be at Watch Time, New York. You bet your bippy I'll be there. I'll be there Friday night. I don't know about Saturday yet. I'm gonna try to come Saturday morning at least to the thing. Um, there's a a church dinner that we may be having to come back to that's on Saturday evening, but the one that I spend most of my time at will be the Friday night party. Though, and that's a lot of fun. I hope to see you guys there. Let's hope to see some of you guys there. Um, you guys know what I look like. I don't know what anybody else looks like. Somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh, hey, Bill, I got Hawaii." So anyhow, I will definitely be there. Hope to see as many as you can. Don't jinx us. We see Buffalo this week. Yeah, that could be tough. Buffalo, God, who beat Buffalo? Somebody beat Buffalo who wasn't supposed to. I think it was the Jets, of all people. First poor old, what's his name, got knocked out, and then they actually won. Hey, Graham, good to see you. By the way, this I'm using just the built-in microphone on my computer. I'm not using my fancy one. And so and I'm using just the camera that's on my portable. So let me ask you, is the sound in the video okay? Yes? No? Maybe? You're thinking about it. Oh, good. Thanks, Big Sal. Thanks, Tim. Boy, hey, Tim, you don't have to be so verbose. Anyway, hey, hey, it's it's after 5 o'clock in England, having a good old time, huh? Anyway, um, I've got on this is one of the things I had this on the other day too. This is my Fabergé, and the other one I had on this morning was another favorite. This is my, Van Cleef& and Arpels. I'm showing you all of this to check on how the video and everything's working so far. Hi, Richard. How you doing? Oh, good. Okay, bueno. So if it's working in Spain, oh, the other thing I was concerned about that it start freezing up because it doesn't have quite the memory as my new one does. Hi, Simon. Sharper picture. Wow. I'll, I'll use it instead of my other one. Oh, that's good to hear. Um, anyway, I had that loose lip sink ships. I thought, well, let's have a chat and sink some ships. Okay. Who's got a new watch they're thinking of getting? I have several new watches I'd like to get, but uh it was not much is holding me back. Just some financing of it. I've got all my financing set up for the second LaRique. That's we've got one final one to go on that one, and that one I'm really looking forward to. Um, and then also on the Air Zulu. So those are two watches that are. And what I want to do, I want to go through my collection and sell a couple so I can get a couple more. So I'm I'm worthless when it comes to advice on how much you should spend on watches. I really am. Um, Tomorrow, I'm going to be interviewing FP Journe, making a day trip, and so that'll be sort of fun. That's not gonna be a live chat. I'll record it, and they'll have it on our Friday, our usual Friday, video. They'll come out then, but last time I was down there, they had to get some kind of, I don't know, I guess you'd call it, the security level has gone whoop way up at the, in a lot of places in New York. You go into a shop on Fifth Avenue, Fernando and I went into a couple, and man, I tell you, security was just, I mean, they got these guys at the door, they have guys outside of the door. When I took my, Chanel, Monsieur Chanel, I don't know how to s anyway, when I took it, I had to go to Cartier, not Cartier, but Chanel, and I had to go to a they had, like, 3 boutiques, Chanel boutiques, in New York City. We were walking up Fifth Avenue, and we saw them they were making another Chanel boutique, a great big one, over by, Van Cleef& and Arpels, across the street from Tiffany's, and right next door to, what is it, Goodman Dordoff or somebody like that. But all of these fancy stores, and they had these guys out in front. You just like of the Chanel shop. The two big guys there, and so they, I I go in there. And I had my suspenders and blue jeans, and said, "We want to see your watch, people." So we Fernando and I took an elevator up to the sixth floor, and then this woman comes out, and super nice. We were treated very, very well, and it was great. And so my watch is gone for 6 months. Oh, you're getting a new FP Journe. Yeah. Hey, Simon, get an appointment there if you can. That'd be fun. You know, when they used to have their place up on Madison Avenue, FP Journe's shop up there, they two things happened. It was sort of funny. You go to the FP Journe shop, you go up a couple more doors, and there was Vacheron Constantin. On the way there, you went by the Longa shop. So going up Madison Avenue was, just sort of a second watch shop boutique. Now, um, Vacheron Constantin left their place on Fifth Avenue, and I think they're over on 53rd or 54th, over by closer to Fifth Avenue. But FP Journe is way down in the financial district, and so anyway. Hi, Sad. How you doing, man? Why do you dislike Rolex? I don't dislike Rolex. I've got nothing against Rolex. This is, the thing of it is that let me ask you this, Saad, and other Rolex fans. Why is it that somebody doesn't like other watches more or watches they'd rather have? That doesn't mean they don't like Rolex. They're just other ones I'd rather have. I'd rather have this Fabergé. I like the Frederic Piguet movement. I'd rather have this Van Cleef and Arpels. I can't even pronounce the name of it, time here and time there. And it's so but it's nothing against Rolex. In fact, there are some Rolexes that I do like. It's just it's sort of like, why does it even have to be relevant? You know, I know that I look like an athlete, so and it's sort of a sports watch kinda guy, but I'm not. Um, and so, nothing against it at all. I've got I've never s I c the only thing I have said, I've said some bad things, not bad, but not kind things about some Rolex owners who don't appreciate their own watches. That's been my biggest complaint. For example, I hated the, Yachtmaster 2. I don't know what the regular Yachtmaster has to do with yachts, but Yachtmaster 2 had this fantastic regatta countdown mechanism, and the Rolex owners stuck their nose up at it. Like, what is wrong with these guys? Don't they appreciate the horology? And, a lot of things. Also, too, they simply don't know their watches as well as they should. So sad, you're gonna change that. You're going to learn how to appreciate, your Rolex, not just like some stupid resale, price. Okay? Does that answer your questions? I don't dislike Rolex. Got nothing against it. I wish they would do more. Okay, Michael, Rolex is cool. Good. That's settled. Social media says Rolex is cool. You know? Oh, geez. Um, hey, well, I like Rolex, but watching videos with the same old Daytona as subs gets old. It does. Hey, Tuna, how you doing, man? Just ordered a Harboring Irwin. Those are nice one. Tuxedo. Ooh, boy. And still a Voutilanen. Man, those are very cool. The other day I had a Chopek. Well, I don't know if it's a new one or not, but I think it is a relatively new Chopek. And the thing I liked the most about it was that, oh, who were they doing? I think at one time they were doing things with Crenode as far as movements are concerned. And so that and I like, Crenode is Francois Maujon, his stuff, Jean-Francois Maujon stuff, and he's one of the top watchmakers. Hey, what's new? Let's see. Hi, Michael, or is it me? Yeah, Michael Biddle. Just ordered a Herbring. You just got the Herbring. I tell you, once you get it, Michael, take some wrist shots of it and put it up on High Horology Lounge. Hi, HRM. Picked up a new watch last week, a 37 millimeter piece from Hidaka Shinichi, a one-man microbrand from Japan. He painted the dial by hand and uses a simple uh, Solita 200. I'll tell you, ETA and Solita have gotten a lot of abuse. And I think the big problem is it's not so much that there's anything wrong with them. They are inexpensive movements. That's true. But I think the thing that a lot of collectors, myself included, uh, didn't have it against Solita or ETA. It was against these companies that they start blowing smoke at us watch collectors, us mighty watch collectors, and saying, "Ooh, this is an in-house movement." It wasn't. I would rather see if somebody says, "Look, I got an ETA base on this, and I made it do all of these kinds of tricks, that are different from the base." That's fine. That's interesting. I've seen school watches. These are watches that were made in watchmaker school that have done some fantastic stuff using ETAs, usually a 6498 or 6497 because they're nice and big and easier to work with. I've broken them all, so I know. So I hand painted, hand painted enamel dial for $600 with an ETA. That's fine. That's cool. Hi, Britt. How you doing? Rolex or Cartier? Thinking about purchasing a Santos de Cartier. I Santos de Cartier, I think is pretty cool. I love the looks of it, Britt. Um, so that would be my choice, but it depends on oh the it depends on the the Rolex. Santos is very specific. Rolex is a lot of different watches. Why not a silicone hairspring? Hey, if you want a silicone hairspring, without the E, by the way, if you want a silicone hairspring, knock yourself out. I don't care for them for one reason. Um, when we talk about progress in timekeeping, what is even a $20 quartz watch is ahead of anything that we can do with purely mechanical watches, okay? And a smartwatch is even further ahead than that. The thing about a silicone hairspring is that you sort of put the brakes on sort of a certain kind of attraction of traditional watchmaking. Now, I know that they say, "Wait a minute, well, everything is the same, it's just the hairspring." The hairspring is the part that is the most delicate. Even I don't even know whether, George Daniels was able to master that. But, these things, they come out of I dealt in silicon up to my neck for years as, teaching programming and doing programming. So I know silicon. It's nothing wrong with silicon. Does silicon work better than a a hairspring made from transitional metals? Probably yes, except in one way, and that is you can adjust it. Now, all of these beautiful swan neck regulators and so forth, what they're doing is that they're pushing the spring one way or the other. You try that with a silicone air spring, and they're too brittle. You can't do that, so you have to keep them there. But the truth of the matter is, there probably isn't a reason you have to. Now, on the other hand, you take a Strawman hairspring. Most of the top name brands use Strawman hairspring. Um, they're made of niobium, which is non-magnetic or minimally so, and titanium. And so they're hard to make. They're very hard to make, okay? And they're made through H. Moser's precision engineering. And I'd rather have a watch with that, and you can adjust them, okay? Now, this isn't to say that you probably have less loss of any kind of specific time with a silicon one, but that's true also with a quartz watch. It's also true with a smartwatch. So it's not that I don't like them. I just don't, it's sort of like, if you're a dog or cat person, what do you got against cats? They're not the same as dogs. That's sort of the way I look at it, or vice versa if you're a cat person. My SW200 runs close to COSI. No complaints here. You know what? Um, I think I had a little video and I regulated, it wasn't even a Salida. I think it was a Chinese Seagull clone of a 6498 or 97. And that thing went from 132 seconds per day fast to 3, and that's within COSC limits. So there. Rolex Explorer. Yeah, Rolex Explorer is a nice watch. I tell you, the one I like, if I can, is sort of an interesting place. I'm not sure exactly when they did it, but two things I like with the Air King. One is the models they had when they use the Milgauss movement in it, and at the same time, they had the Bloodhound dial, which I also like. I really think that's very cool, but that's, that's a matter of taste. It's not a matter of having to like the whole brand or disliking the whole brand. The other thing about Rolex that I absolutely really like is the fact that they have their parachrome hairspring, which is also it's part niobium and part zirconium. And so they're both using transitional metals, and you can adjust it. Now, I don't think Rolex like people messing in their in their Rolex watches. They don't even show it. That's one thing I wish they would do. One of the best watches I think they ever made was the sort of redoing of the Prince that came out around 2004, right around there. Not only did they make this beautiful hand wound movement running at 3 hertz, but hand wound, flip it over on the back, they had you could see the movement, and the movement was just gorgeous. It had these 3 finger dials formed in 3, like, breaking waves, and then the front, the guilloche in the front matched the one on the back. I mean, it was wonderful. And what did they do with it? Same thing with the, Yachtmaster 2. Now there are a lot of other ones. Rancher, we're sinking ships. Has tourbillon become irrelevant and is now mostly aesthetics, as movements these days have become so accurate at various positions? Sod, I tell you, I think what in certain ways, the tourbillon has become sort of a status symbol for the watchmaker. Always like, "I know how to make a tourbillon." I was told, though, I mean, Carol Forstier Casapi said that it was a lot harder making a, chronograph, which I'm no fan of chronographs, sorry, guys, than it was to, a tourbillon. Tourbillons are fun to watch. They use the thing at tourbillon on the old pocket watches, they could just, put it in their pocket, and they're always in this position, and what the tourbillon did was that in a similar position, the big problem was gravity. I didn't realize that until relatively recently, and it was pulling down and making because the position of one part of um, the not the regulator, but the balance. Includes the balance wheel and the balance spring. Were all getting pulled downward, and so the tourbillon was to spin it around so that it would be gravity from different positions would keep it keep it accurate. And I think it worked with pocket watches, with wrist watches. This has got a this this watch has almost everything I don't like about certain watches and love it. It's got a solid back. It's 4 hertz, know, and 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 it's an automatic, but Fabergé, oh, there's a name brand for you that no one knows about. Uh, the Lapis dial Rolex makes amazing. They have a Lapis dial. I didn't know that. I do like Lapis dials though, a lot. Dr. BBC talked to you about my kneel before sod comments. I don't know. You realize that a nod to General Zod from Superman, right? I don't know about that. Boy, all of this interesting stuff. That's why it's so much fun to have Rancher here. He knows exotic things. So nod to Mod, a nod to Zod. Hey HRM, the Prince movement is stunning and tiny. Yeah, it is, but it's very cool. Alex, any thoughts on Carl Butcher? Carl F. Butcher, I think that's one brand that may be very, very cool. Um, They bought a company called THA that was started by FP Jarn, Vianney, and one other person now who have these incredible independent brands. But that was THA, and I don't know, who was with THA when it was sold to, Butcher, Carl CFB, okay? Um, but that makes it very interesting. It certainly has, the possibility of something really cool. What's harder to make, a 4 billion or double hairspring, tourbillon or a double hairspring? I've heard they're both equally difficult. I think more and more people there's probably certain number of sequences of and from what I've heard very recently, I guess the double hairspring came back. That thing is amazing. It keeps amazing time, and they're bringing it back in, unfortunately, in fairly expensive watches, and I hope they come down to the lumpen proletariat with their some of the prices. Don't you did a pun. Oh, man. Okay, ASAT, alright, just to add, I changed the hairspring on one of my watches to the then newer, Parachrome blue hairspring, replacing the old one by a local watchmaker. Way to go. What happened? When I gave the watch, for service, they never cared. Way to go. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, they're almost like, you have to you must do this and you must do this or we're not gonna you know, they sort of crazy. John Wick is a fan. There you go. Don't let anyone know about this, son. I think it's a very cool thing, but mum's the word. Remember, loose lips sink ships. We're here to sink a few today. Okay, what else is on your mind, everybody? I'm delighted that my computer works. That was because it doesn't work with one of my main applications, unfortunately, but it seems to work okay here. Is there anything unique about the Nomos Lambda? The movement, seems nice. I love the Lambda, I really do. Um, what is unique about it? That's a good question. I'm not sure what's unique about it, but I like it. Uh, I I haven't looked at it for a while, but when it first came out, I was, "Oh, boy." Now there's it sort of was really a fast elevator for, Nomos into high horology, in a number of uses of that term. Kneel before sad, okay. Hey, Big Sal, I know you're not a chronograph fan. That's right. Except well, I do like the Agengraph, but those things are 40,000 bucks or something. It's not that I don't like a chronograph, but what do you get with a chronograph? You get a very busy dial with all of these little things, and I just don't have a use for it. If I were timing, racehorses or cars or anything, yeah, that would be great, or if I were, still flying and all of my instruments went out, I might use a timer for, step downs or something like that, but I it's just sort of too much, that I didn't need, and I like to look at a watch with a glance and say, "Oh, okay, I know what time it is." I've been hunting for a 321 Ed White. Boy, I don't know that watch, Big Sal. Alex, what next watch am I looking at? Well, right now, I'm looking at a lot is the, Lyrique number 2 and getting ready to kick off Lyrique number 3, which is our, Air Zulu or Zulu Hour. That one is very exciting because there's gonna be a whole new movement. I mean, a lot of new movement. The movement from Etude number 1 to Etude number 2 changed a little. It's now instead of 6801, it's 6802. And the good and the bad thing about that, they made some improvements to it, but the bad thing was that some of the changes means that we had to have some changes in the, case, and that we thought, "Well, we're gonna get a good deal on the case." So with that blum, blum. Hey, Blake. Oh, just got your private pilot's certificate. Way to go. Let me give you a tip. Get your instrument rating. That is worth its weight in gold. Um, and start studying for the meteorology tests. I guess, yeah, the meteorology test. There are 100 questions on a meteorology test. You got to know everything about weather on that one. But did you get an airplane? That was this other guy. We were the two oldest guys. I think we were in our mid 40s at the time. We both got our licenses together, and everybody else, was young and in their 20s and 30s. And so we decided to get an airplane together. Had a ball. We had a Cessna Cardinal 177. Love that airplane. One of the greatest private planes ever made, I think. Any recommendation for watch shops to visit in Vancouver, Canada? Boy, I don't. I I just don't know the watch shops there. Working on your instrument now, good. Cessna, yeah, 150. That's what I trained in too, a Cessna 150. I did most of my instrument training at night, which is, boy, I got my night hours in like nobody's business, and it really helped. Um, you're working for a deal for a Cardinal right now. Oh, wow. Those are great airplanes, and I'll tell you why. They're high wing, they don't have the struts, and so you don't have anything to your left or right, but the canopy comes way back, and so you've got good upward, visibility, and then being a high wing, you got total below down, visibility. They're great. They are great airplanes. I love them. I tell you though, they're y it and also the engine, they use a manifold pressure instead of, I mean, for your speed. They're really great airplanes. They're more complex than your like a what was it, the Pipers or some of the other ones that are nice airplanes, but this one is just wonderful. Hey, Steven, how are things in Detroit? I'm new to the world of watches, and I'm looking to buy a secondhand Blancpain 50 Phantoms. Do you think that's a good buy for a first one? I'm hoping to get a second-hand price around 7, 8K. Oh, anybody? I 182, yeah, 182 is a good airplane too. I like the 182 as well. Uh, the Cardinals. I tell you what, uh, Blake, if you can get a Stoll kit. Ours had STOL, short takeoff and landing kit. It just did a few things to the wings and stuff, but man, I tell you, we were flying into dirt fields down in Mexico, and you want a STOL kit. It was great. I'm hoping to get a secondhand price around 7 to 8K on a fit. Steven, is that a good deal? Eckerhorn? A Swatch X Blancpain, boy, depends on the condition. Okay. Yeah, I know that, there was one guy who had one and didn't like it, but one person not liking a watch doesn't mean jack. You gotta find a lot of people who don't like a watch or like it. Yeah, I'll tell you something else, boy, you got a Yama. I'm gonna call you I'm gonna yeah, Yame, something like that. Hey, you got a long name. We'll call you Y for that. My suggestion to you is to really look around, shop around. Some of the places are these places that people normally don't look, like, the Real, First Dibs, and some of the places like that. Usually the worst deals, unless you're dumb, blind, lucky, are auctions. Some auctions are better than others, but they take, too much out of the buyer's hide on those things. So you'd have to buy it, like, first of all, below what the going rate is, plus 25% below that, because that's what they call the buyer's premium. That's not a premium, that's a gouge. That's another thing. For a new watch collector, premium means gouge. They ought to have that as a dictionary, what it really means. Oh, I sold one watch on Chrono 24. I got, my best and then some friends. I sold, a couple to people I know, and then I sold, one at auction. Selling on auction is great. It takes a while, but it they're really good. Chrono 24. No, I bought a lot of watches on Chrono 24. It's one thing. I got this watch on Chrono 24. This is a funny thing. If you go to Chrono 24, go to any of these other ones, somebody has an asking price. I offered about $1,500 under this, not thinking I'd get it. It was a really good price to begin with, brand new, white gold, just everything I liked about that part about it, I liked. And I thought, they'll never sell it for me for that low ball that I put in, and they did. And it was brand new. It came in this gorgeous box. I'll tell you one thing about some of these things that are identified with, you know, uh, luxury brands. Man, I tell you, they sure know how to package things up. In the box they have, I, that thing is gorgeous. No, Chrono 24 is a fine place to look. Look at Chrono 24, eBay, all the places. The best place is start with Google and say, "I want this kind of watch," and then take a look and see where they're from. And then I think you'll find a lot of other places. Um, hey, boy, especially as a newbie, what I would do if I were you is you find a watch you really like, get the address for it and ask some guys about it, some guys who've been around for a while, and give them the link. We get some of those on Watch Arts, on the High Horology Lounge. Somebody comment, "What about this? Should I get it?" And, they get some. I think the people there are pretty solid. They got a good. There's you don't have the same opinion with everybody, but still you got some cool stuff. I mean, you got better than nothing. Don't listen to me because I encourage everyone to buy everything. I'm terrible. I think there's a wanted poster by the wives of watch collectors with my picture on it, right next to the devil. Hey, Dan, I think I found my new grail. Stenenheimel by oh yeah, his stuff is really good. Yes. Dan, his this he is super good. One of the things though, I always start with the movement, and so I know he's not a movement guy, but he's trying to move into making movement, but I think he's got a ways to go, but he does other things that are just fantastic. Whoops. Thoughts on Seiko spring drive movements? Brilliant engineering. Just brilliant. Basically, what they're doing is that it's a quartz watch uh, with the power for it, the electricity generated by your movement, which I think is brilliant. But like I said, if I wanted a quartz watch, I would have probably stayed with my $20 quartz watches. Super accurate, probably than anything in my collection. And they're great watches. So, I it's oh boy, what we got here? Um, Grand Seiko has a nice video on the spring drive. Yeah, I bet they do. You know, Seiko, I have a Seiko 5, which is one of the first ones. They're very great, great innovators. They really are. I think their their technology, though, I mean, if you're looking for some timekeeping magic, a smartwatch. Ooh, boy. Uh, Let me see if I can. Now that's a chronograph, rancher, Clyde. Yeah? Am I tracking that correctly? Am I looking at the same one you're looking at? Hey, Hans. Boy, you 2 ads even before you, can tune in. Greetings, Hans. Register at 6 p.m. as the date. Okay, let me see. No, that's an Astra. Ooh, boy. Wow, that's some movement. Really something. Oh, yeah, it's a hand date. I love hand dates. If this thing looks like it's rocking every now and then, it's me, not anything else. Normally, I also search on based on movements, but I think, his work has swayed me to, put that aside for once. He is working he's an honest guy, though. I mean, when you get something from him, from what I've seen, you know what you're getting. I mean, like I said, you can put a Salida, you can put a, hamster on a running wheel, as long as the buyer knows about what's making the watch tick. You know, Anordain, I just did a video on that, and I think there is a waiting list. Now, it depends on which one they have. Actually, the ones that I like the best are not the, enamel ones they have. They have some really great ones for in Model 1, and I'm trying to think the name of it. It's a lacquer, dial instead of, enamel, and they do a beautiful job on that too, and those you can get right away. Certain of the lacquer ones, I mean, certain of the, enamel ones, though, at Anordain do have a waiting list, but look at they just have a few, and not a few in terms of numbers, but a few in terms of models of the ones, and I forgot the name of those models, but they're nice. No, hand dates are fine. I like hand dates. If the in if the live stream a rockin', don't come a knockin'. Yeah, I know. I built this wooden watch holder, and it's so that I could put a watch like this, and it's got a flat bottom, and then I it's got a cushion top that I made out of 3 pieces of wood, and the cushions are made from, the bags that AB and AB and something watch, a real fancy, band maker in Paris. So I cut up those bags and made them as sort of the paste for it, and I use it for everything, including putting my laptop on to try it out. You could "Hey, Boxica 80." Say, Dan, first, time I have been able to join the live, really enjoyable. Oh, good. Hey, Britt, what's the best place to purchase an H. Moser? About 4 years ago, that would be the best place. You know what? I think the best place, well, 2 places, H. Moser, there's a really good, H. Moser page, uh, Facebook page. A lot of guys use that, and so I think you can find some there. I would look there. I would also look at just go directly to H. Moser because I think you can get them from there. They have an online thing, and they do have a much more reasonable price. I think their prices start around, and I know this doesn't sound reasonable to everybody, but around 11,000. I think you can get one of the Pioneers with a HMC 200 in it. Nice little one. How is E2 number 2 coming along? How is it coming along? Beautifully. All right. But hard. It is so hard. You guys, no wonder they charge so much for those watches. The watches that are handmade by by real watchmakers, there's all kinds of details, everything. We're using um, Comblamine and Boot& Lannon and Caton. Comblamine is the dial maker owned by, in part at least, by Kari Boot& Lannon, and Boot& Lannon is owned by Kari Boot& Lannon and Caton, Cattin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Caton's, they are famous watch um, case makers going way back in Swiss history. And I guess, the thing about Kari Boot& Lannon, he's one of the few really great watchmakers who's also, I think, a really great businessman. So is FP Journe. Those 2, I think, are the top 2. There's other ones who are great watchmakers who I don't know if they're really great businessmen. One of my favorite is Marco Lang. He cared so much about the perfection of his watches that I don't know if he was the best businessman. He lost Lang and Heim, but now he has his own company, and I think he knows better now. But he was a very good watchmaker, but not the best businessman. Same with Daniel Roth, great guy. Um, I don't know about Roger Dubuis had sort of he had a partnership with this guy that was a little squirrely, but so it's really hard to tell, and so, working with companies owned by, Butenlander. Also, too, he's got, Urban Jorgensen now. The rancher and I both got the last ones before of the Urban Jorgensens that, went out for a great price after the sale was announced, and they wanted to move all of their old stock, and which was very new. It wasn't old new stock, it was new stock that they just had with the change. That's another thing too. Sometimes you have to be able to spot an opportunity and jump in at that time, and you never know what it's gonna be, or you never know when and where it's gonna be. But the more you know about price, looking at prices and watches and so forth, and your own budget, uh, that I think is why knowing about these things is very important. Is a very special one, I might add, Washington football fan. Let's see. Steven, do you believe in Grail watches? And if so, what's yours? God, I don't know. It, you know, Grail watches are sort of like chasing the end of a rainbow. There's no, you just can't get there. I don't know. I think I've got a lot of Grail watches. One of my first Grail watches was my Vacheron Constantin, um, 1921, and, that's wonderful to have. Another one was actually, it was my Chanel Monsieur, and it came along at the right price at the right time, and, this was another one. I just love this watch. This is what this movement was made from scratch. It wasn't like we're gonna pile on because originally the men's Van Cleef& and Arpels was designed by Pierre Arpels for a gentleman's watch, and they had that. They still have them. They still make those watches, and I think they use, oh, what is it? I've lost it. Starts with a P. Piaget, movements in them. Or you wait for an older guy in a beret to say he really wants something. Yeah. Well, I got on my Newsboys cap today, Grandpa. I recently picked up an escapement time regulator. Huh. Modified Siegel movement. I think you'd like it. I bet I would. That sounds very something fun to play around with. Sounds like a lot of fun. Oh, and it's biperpetual. Yes, love those guys. 200 bucks for my regulator, and it still works just dandy. Hey, Brian, good afternoon. The Anardane model, with the lacquer dial is the Fabrique Model 1. Yeah, they have one, I think it's in a salmon that I like. It's really a nice watch. Oh, good, McGill. Glad you're here. I'm looking for regulator style watches and only found interesting Chrono Swiss and a few vintage Vacheron. Any other makers? Yeah. Now it depends on what you want to spend. If you're like me, a regulator was simply a something I was checking off. You know what? I'll tell you one. There's that crazy one by Eberhard. No, is it Eberhard? It's not Eberhard, but it's Egard or something like that. Who did one with Cosantin, uh, and has sort of this really crazy looking one. That'd be fun one to have. if you want a regulator, just a check off regulator in your collection, there's a place called Perpetual. That's the name of the watch company, and they have a regulator. I got mine for 200 bucks, but when the word got out, I think they zoomed up to like to 220 now. They're a guy in Hong Kong. Great guy. The watch is wonderful. The blued hands are fire or fume. They're heat blued. They're not chemical blued or painted blue. It's a really cool watch, and it's been working for years. So, um, um, the one that I like the best is probably the one by Laurent Perrier. I don't even know if he makes it anymore, but he had a wonderful regulator. A lot of just look around if you're thinking about getting one. Picking up UJ is good, yes. Picking up UJ that looks like Roger Smith Series 2. Y You are so right. You are absolutely right about that. Fabrique model. Yeah, that was the one. It's funny with a name like Fabrique, you're thinking it's gonna have a fabric dial of some sort. It doesn't. It's just a really good lacquer dial, and then it has this circular graining around the sides. Sweet looking watch, and they're available. And that's everybody goes nuts about enamel, and enamel's very pretty. I have my Longines. What is it called? I forgot. It's got some big name to it, but it's really a equation of time. I got it for equation of time. An equation of time watch is that you have the solar time and then I'll call it the clock time. And the difference between that is called the equation of time. So there. And it's my only watch that has an enamel dial. And it's nice. But I tell you, a good lacquer dial, you know, I'm going with Philippe Dufour, his comments on that, on like a lacquer dial. I rocked it again. Alpina makes some nice ones too. Alpina's a good buy, I think. Dornbluth and Sun have a nice regulator. That's a great recommendation, really a great recommendation. That company is a very interesting one. I did early videos on that years ago, and they were when they were not, certainly after the earth cooled, when they were coming out, the story about how they were when the reunification and how they started having more access to different things after the German reunification, I think is in 89, 90, right around there, is that how they had been making watches before and then they were able to do it. Another interesting story too is about Marco Lang and his father, I think. Yeah, Marco Lang's father, uh, coming at the end of World War II, the there was a real strict version of sort of of communism that they wanted to make everything equal for everybody, and so you couldn't take over your father's business. In other words, if your father was a watchmaker, you couldn't become a watchmaker. And so it was, like, whoa. Um, a lot of stuff, a lot of weird stuff that goes on, and then with the reunification, other kinds of things happen. Lyrique. Now, come on now. What did I tell you about that? Don't wanna do that. Don't wanna do that, rancher. Mm-mm, mm-mm. No, no. Louis Arand and Chaikin. That's the fun regulator. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about, David. Thank you. Yeah, the watch is lacquered up and the odor is liquored up. The coin edge and those Chrono Swiss regulators are nice. Beautiful watches. The ones I like, I are the and I made this would be one I'd like to get. it's they're not unavailable. I just trying to find a nice one. Is are the Brigade was on the verge of becoming almost not a watch company. I think they had a couple uh, military sports style watches when the Chomet brothers bought them, and then Daniel Roth went in there and sort of brought them back to look more like a Brigade watch. And one of the first things he did was to add that coin edge to it because that was what Brigade did. I forgot why. There was a good reason that he had. There was a practical reason. Now we have a lot of things that are in watches that aren't exactly practical. Like you take, for example, the Perlage I I guess etching, Perlage etching on a watch and the Geneva waves, those were originally used to minimize dust, to keep dust away from the movement, which I thought was sort of cool. Hi, Taipei 521. Are you going to watch? Yeah, you bet I am. Archie? Is Archie? I don't know. I I don't know. I'd like to meet Archie. Say, how you doing, Archie? You know, years ago, Archie's thing was very informative, I think. A lot of new watchmakers at the time, really he had some good information. Then he became, I don't know, he sort of he went from being a watch show to an entertainment, and I think he's probably been pretty successful about that. I don't know, but I would like to meet the guy. I understand he's a pretty sweet guy, really, so that's cool. Anyway, guys, listen, I better pack this up, but thank you all for helping me try out my because I was worried my computer was broken. It's because of this one application didn't work with my camera, and so I thought, "Wow, there's something wrong with it," but I'm glad it did. Thank you all for dropping by and helping me out with that. So, take care. See you on the weekend, I hope.